Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, Tim. So, hello everyone. Today we have Tim with us again, and those who have seen the last video know Tim already, and those who have not seen the last video, that is something that you just cannot miss. So just go back and watch it. It was a very interesting discussion, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to take away from it. So today we are going to be discussing another film noir movie, which is called DOA. Last time we discussed D.O.A, which I found a little interesting. Tim did not like it at all. And today, let us see how we both have responded to this film. And the link to that video is also, it will be below in the description box. And I'll also share that one of those cards which keep flashing on your screen. So you can access that video from there as well. And those of you who enjoyed the last video, our discussion about D.O.A, please like, subscribe, comment, and share the videos. That really helps us a lot.
Ring the bell.
And ring the
Ding,
bell.
ding.
Yeah, and ring the bell. That will give you. Some people actually ask me that why do we need to ring the bell? So what the bell does is that whenever I upload any new video, it sends you a message that a new video has been uploaded. So that's the
Yes.
function of that bell. And don't go to personalize or anything. Go to the bell icon. Press the bell icon, and then go to all. And then you will get all the notifications which probably you would want to have. All right, Tim. So DOA, how did you like it?
I think I liked it a little bit better than Detour, but I still not one of my favorite films. But again, I'm new to the horror. I'm new to the
Film
noir,
noir. Yeah.
film noir category.
Yeah.
So I'm just not used to it. But a couple of things did impress me about it.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed Detour more than this. So I didn't like it as much as I liked Detour. Because that was a weaker film than this one.
So you like weak films?
No, it was easier to make fun of it. It was easier to go on that train. For this film, for me, it was neither going in a direction which would make me laugh because of sketchy characters or anything like that, and it was not going in a direction which would make me look at it very seriously as a well-made film. So it was, for me, it was somewhere in between, and that's why I was not able to enjoy. So if you liked it, what was the first bit that worked for you? And I'll tell you what was the first bit that didn't work for me, and where it went all haywire for me.
I think the first thing that was impressive was the opening credits. If you notice, the camera had a very it filmed. Well, first we should give a synopsis of the film.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah. So you're good at that, yeah.
but I am.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Um, the film begins with this very impressive shot. As the opening credits go by, the camera just follows the man as he's walking through a maze of. We find out that he's in the police office building, and the camera just follows him and follows him and follows him until the credits are done. And then he says, "I'd like to talk to a homicide detective." And when he gets to talk to the detective, he says, "I'd like to report a murder." "Well, whose murder?" "Mine." And then the detective calls up somebody and says, "We've got our man." And then we go into his backstory, which is he's a simple accountant who goes on a vacation. And while he's on vacation, he goes out drinking with the salespeople across the hall from his room. And while he's drinking, he accidentally drinks somebody else's alcohol that was left on the bar. And the next day, he starts to feel ill. He goes to a hospital and he's diagnosed with a strange poison. Somebody has poisoned him, and he's got about 24 hours or so to live. And he wants to know who did this. And the rest of the film is him playing private detective to try to figure out who poisoned him, basically, who put a ticking bomb inside of him that's going to kill him in 24 hours. So the film just follows that. Now, there's no spoilers from me because, to be honest, I didn't understand who killed him. It's complicated. This is why I have trouble with detective stories. So what was the first thing that didn't work for you?
Okay, so I'll tell you what worked for me as well. So I had seen that trailer some time back. So when we did Detour, and when I got to know what there was a film called DOA, and then I just dug up a little to figure out what that film was. So I got to know that that's the premise, that a guy is coming to a police station, and then he's saying that I am here to report a murder, and I am the victim. I have been murdered. I like that bit because it has so many different. Your mind can take off in so many different ways from that. Is it a ghost story? Is it a detective story? You can that very instant can make you think so many different things. So that did work for me, but it was. So I think the whole treatment of film noir at times, because it's so cheesy, it doesn't work for me. Like they stressed it so much, like you have been murdered. We can say you've been poisoned, because he's essentially been poisoned, so we can say you've been poisoned. But they keep cashing on to this idea, which does sound impactful, but I think they overdid that. So that was a little bit of a put off for me, that okay, fine, I understand that you've got this a tagline that yeah, a murdered victim has come to report one's murder, but that was overdone. But that was still okay. Like that is something which I can still take. But what did not work for me at all was the background score, Tim. It was so out of place. It was so displaced. It was like it was made for another film and they've put it here. It had those romantic melancholy tune to it, and they were playing it at all the wrong places. He's running from his doctor to the other clinic, and the kind of music you are playing. So that just destroyed it for me completely.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice it, to be honest.
So background
I watched.
scores are very important for me. Somehow background scores are very important for me.
Oh,
Either
this one I
either
didn't even notice.
either you don't have it at all, it works completely, but if you have it, it needs to be nice.
Okay. I've always understood noir as a series of techniques. It's almost like how I've always understood Gothic, a series of literary techniques. And with noir, it seems it's always, oh goodness, I think it was the film critic Ebert, forgive me, Siskel and Ebert. Um, on his website, he has a list of 12 or 13 characteristics that define noir. And some of them I think include lighting, some of them include the music, some of them include the point of view. But anyway, for this film, it didn't really feel noir. There was no that sense of a mystery, or well, actually, I could be talking out of my hat. There was the mystery. Um, when he walks in and says, "Whose murder?" and he says, "Mine," and then we go back into the story. I fully expected to come out of his story with him surviving or him living.
Hmm.
Okay, spoiler alert, he stands up and then in the one of the most unprofessional acting jobs goes face first into the floor.
Acting was really bad in this film, Tim. Acting was really bad. Comparing it with Detour, Detour had tons of bad acting. But somehow, it was something that I was able to enjoy with a different kind of it had a different kind of a appeal. It was funny bad. That woman who was shown as very aggressive and relentless and everything, and a great video that you shared later. That was a very funny story that they tell there. So she had that ugly expression on her face throughout completely, and it was so badly done by her, and it was funny. But here it was just plain bad. It was almost like someone who doesn't know how to act is been forced. I don't know. It didn't work for me.
Okay, I can see that. Although I think some of the cinematography was good. Like I said, that opening credits, where they follow him through, and it takes about 3 minutes of him just walking. And if you remember, maybe it was about 25% into the film, after he gets the diagnosis that he's got 24 hours to live, he's been slowly poisoned. Um, there's that wonderful scene where he's just running through San Francisco. I thought there's absolutely no, I'm not quite sure if there was a need for that, but visually it was so appealing. It was, to me, it was just so well done. And I'm not sure if everybody was how do you say, a background actor, or if he really was running through the streets of San Francisco. But I just thought that was brilliantly done. And there you go. That's everything I loved about the film.
So the running scene was definitely a high point of the film, which was butchered by the background score. And I love the way they had shot it. And talking about the camera movements, the choreography and the camera movement of that bit where, you know, the main character, he runs into a store and then there's this guy following him with his gun and he's trying to shoot him. And
Yeah.
the whole camera movement there was also really very good. So, and also what I enjoyed was how they had shown the city, you know, there were so many exterior shots and the way they had shot the city was really nice. It was such a pleasure to, you know, to actually see low-rise buildings and, you know, 3 to 4 storied buildings around, and the whole cityscape was very different. So that was something which I really liked as well.
That could be different. Yeah, yeah. That scene where he was being driven by, good Lord, I really didn't understand, the importer's son. And I think the importer said, he said something like, "You got to forgive my son. I'm looking very quickly for that quote. He said something like, "You have to forgive my son. He's a psychopath."
Yeah, yeah,
You remember that?
Yes, yes, yes. Let me
Yeah.
dig out the quote. You have that in your notes.
My notes. Yeah, yeah. I just thought that was such a cute shot, such a cute phrase.
He's an
And
unfortunate boy. He's an unfortunate boy. He's psychopathic. Yeah, that was
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And that guy played the part. If you really like somebody who's overacting, he's it. He had the face, he had the extreme,
Yeah,
the
yes.
jaw jutting out. Yeah, he was the part where your eyes just were riveted to his overacting. It was perfect.
True. And also, okay, so following that whole idea of who poisoned it, Tim, I tried to. So that was a bit of a mystery for me because when the film starts, you know, he's been poisoned. So and constantly, I was trying to figure out who's poisoned him. So
Mhm.
and you know, I think they also used some rather lame techniques to throw you off track because he's sitting with his girlfriend in that bar and she switches the drink. What was that all about?
Did she switch the drinks? Somebody at the end of the bar switched drinks.
No, 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 no.
That,
When he's still to go on his trip, you know, he's still to go to San Francisco,
oh,
and he's just told her that I'm going, and she's upset, and then they go to a bar to have a couple of beers, and that's when he goes to request for a song at the jukebox, and when he's there, she switches the drinks. I didn't understand what was that all about.
I don't even remember that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that was one. Two, there were a few things happening in that party across the hall from his room. So that
Mhm.
was one. But I think when he was poisoned was actually when that guy with the hat and the tweed overcoat comes, and you know, and that was when the thing was switched. And
Yes.
that was done by that guy who had imported that whole chemical.
Iridium.
Yeah, yes,
Iridium.
yes, yes. So,
Oh,
he actually killed him, and that was that's what I understood. So,
would was he poisoned because of the bill of sale that he notarized? Because he was just an accountant. Was
so
he poisoned because the bill of sale would have proved that the husband didn't commit suicide? That who what is it? His wife was having an, oh no, yeah, his wife was having. That's why I don't do well with detective stories. Even Miss Marple confuses me.
No, but that it should actually make the detective stories work for you a lot better, because even I'm same when it comes to this. I'm not able to pick up the clues, so that's why the surprise hits really well. Oh, I didn't see that coming. Okay, but coming back to this thing, what I understood was that there was a transaction that should not have been, and that bill was nullified, and there was only one guy who knew that the bill has been nullified, and that was him. So if they get him off the way, then that secret would remain a secret. That's what I understood.
That, yeah. But then also his secretary knew, and
So they were on the same team, one, and two, I think it's a B grade film. So
yeah. But you just mentioned something. Oh, the jazz club. Can't get away with that jazz club. It was so shameful and hilarious. It was some conservatives' vision of the beat culture. I think there was a girl who was listening to the jazz music, and oh man, it's so hip. And I've lost my quote already, but
wait, I'll dig it out for you.
it's a funny as heck quote. But the people at the jazz club, and the bartender says something about, oh, they're all jive crazy.
Yeah, what does this term actually mean? I have no idea. What's jive crazy?
The music makes you lose your sense. It's jive was a style of, I think, now I could be wrong here, but jive today means nonsense, not telling the truth. But jive, I think, was a form of dance, of jazz music. I am not sure, but he says they were all jive crazy. Says that the music is driving the bartender crazy, and the girl says, "Don't bug me, man. I'm being enlightened." So they're making fun of the beat culture of the 50s. Kerouac and the others who thought that alternative culture of freedom, which shaded into the 1960s too. But anyway, I just thought that was a hoot. That whole scene was so insulting to the beat culture, so stereotypical. I had read an article in The Guardian a couple of weeks ago, maybe, in which a jazz performer, a jazz artist, had said he felt uncomfortable and ironic that Black musicians were playing in jazz clubs where the audience was completely white. So here too is that whole thing, the Black musicians playing for the white audience who are just not really understanding the music or the link that it has to Black history, just again taking the Black music and turning it into something for them to get drunk and think that these white people are so deep and so intellectual. So the girl says, "Don't bug me, man. I'm being enlightened." It was sad, really pathetic.
Mhm. But how does this become, how relevant was that scene for the film? I was not able to understand that. Like,
Not at all. Yeah. That just none of it came together. It didn't, there was no reason for it.
yeah, I felt the same. I felt the same. I felt the same.
There was a remake of this film with Randy Quaid and no, Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, which I
Really?
have never seen. Yeah,
What's it called?
DOA.
I
So
have not seen it. Okay.
apparently it did a better job with the whole story.
Oh, that's the next film I should watch then. As a kid, I was a huge Meg Ryan fan. I thought she was like, I was a fan.
We're not going to go there today.
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about the relevance of that scene, and we established that there was no relevance of that scene. Um,
The scene in the beginning with the bar or the running scene?
The bar, the bar with the jazz party going on.
Yeah, except that it's the setting of how he gets drugged. Other than that, it was completely unnecessary. It was almost a stereotypical mock on both the beat culture, the beat movement, and a mock on jazz culture. But
You know how I saw that scene? For me, it was like, they were trying to create an environment of chaos and confusion, like
mhm.
a lot of sound and a lot of movement and, all of that. So that's what I saw in that scene.
But here was a married man and his wife, and the wife so attracted to the accountant, and the accountant uncomfortable with the attentions of the married man's wife, and the married man sitting at the table glaring at him, right? Even though it was the married man who invited him to the room and then invited him drinking. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Also, after watching this film, I did feel that I want to watch some good quality noir films as well. Like, I was like, it's
the
unfair.
Maltese Falcon.
Maybe, but I want to read the book first for that.
I've always heard or read that the film and the book are just two different things. That
Story
somehow
wise,
the
no?
film, yeah, the film doesn't seem to actually make sense. Whereas if you read the novel, you'll understand who killed who or who betrayed who. I've seen that film twice, and two times I just come away saying, "What?" Going
So,
back to go back to DOA.
okay.
I just remembered that running scene after he gets the diagnosis from the doctor. He spends it's almost a good minute and a half running through San Francisco, and he ends up at a bus station. And at the bus station, he sees a child come along, and then he sees a woman meet her husband. And I think that's part of what maybe the entire film was aiming at, that here's a man who had a woman, Paula, who loved him at home, and he never appreciated what he had, the opportunities he had, until he was given a 24-hour deadline. And that's when he appreciated how much he'd frittered away his chance at having this American dream of a family and a home and a steady, stable life with someone who really loved him. So I guess that's supposed to make the bitterness of his meeting Paula outside the hotel in San Francisco, his secretary. And we're not going to talk about how uncomfortable the 50s films were in their depiction of women as basically barking after men and men abusing women. We're not going to go there today. But so that just made the whole thing with Paula more, should be painful, when he says to her, I do love you, Paula. I've always loved you. I didn't realize that until now. And she says, I've loved you, but it's always been obvious how he's just toyed with her affections. So maybe that's the only redeeming quality of the film, is this moral lesson, this reminder to us all that eventually we're all going to get that that time restriction.
Yes, yes. This film for me somehow came across more disjointed. I only
Mm-hmm.
have one thing to compare it with, and that's Detour. So, so it came across as more disjointed than Detour. And for that, I was not able to understand that until I read your notes. Because when I read your notes, I understood that, there was so much happening. That was one, two, three, four, five. Probably that was done to keep the audience involved and hooked.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was putting in everything and not being able to focus on anything. That's how it came across to me. On the other hand, Detour, there was just a one thing happening. And one thing, and that happens throughout the
Yeah.
film, and it's one single thread, and there's no confusion here and there, and so so that was something which I felt probably was the reason for me that I was not able to enjoy it.
Yeah. I think that might, and that constant shifting, him running from one place to the next and back again, maybe that was one of the qualities of noir, that you always have a, an inability to feel stable, that the story is always spread across many different environments. I think one of the major things for me also from this film was that he was so determined upon getting this diagnosis, because the doctor said, I don't think you understand. You've been murdered. Ta-da. That was effective. Um, but if this had been said to you or me, the first thing we would do is run to the hospital, like the doctor said, right? Although the doctor said there is no hope. It's just you've got 24 hours and this poison will kill you. And he wanted to find out why he was poisoned, why he's been murdered, and what did he do wrong. I think that struck me too, because it almost makes sense. We don't want to go through life and then die thinking that life was meaningless, that life was just random chance. I mean, it probably is, but we always want to think that there's a purpose, there's a reason for the things we suffer. People will say, oh, suffering is good for you, it improves you, it strengthens you. Anyway, I thought that was one of the film's most interesting points as well, that what drove him to keep going back and forth to try to find who poisoned his drink at the bar was that he didn't want to think it was just an accident, random, that his life was meaningless, that there was a reason for his dying.
So I think that that's why I had picked up the film in the first place. I felt that it was something which had a lot going for it in concept. But somehow when I ended up watching it, I did not really enjoy it particularly. But visually, the film does leave you with a lot of imagery, especially the
Mm.
last scene when they're on that bridge or whatever it was in that factory, and both of them are standing, in front of each other, and then he. Okay, so I won't go any further because that will spoil everything. So there is a lot of imagery happening in that film, but yeah, conceptually, definitely there's a lot going on in the film. It's just probably the execution,
Yeah,
or which kind of, I don't know. I need to watch more noir films to actually be able to judge.
me too. Me too. I, it's never, it's not just noir, it's detective mystery has never appealed to me, because I think I'm a slow learner. Many times I'll get to the end of the story and I'll still say, I don't get it. Who killed him? Have
But
you seen oh, what was it? Oh my goodness. The recent science fiction thriller that came out in the movie theaters. Um
Tenant, are we talking about?
Tenant, yes.
I haven't
Have you
seen it.
seen that yet?
Not yet, no.
No, I saw it in the theater here in Taiwan. I didn't have subtitles to help me along. At the end of the movie, I turned to my friends who were with me and I said, I don't get it. What was it? And they said, you really don't understand? I mean, it's so simple. So there's just, I'm not good with mysteries and figuring things out. So if you ever need a detective, don't look at me. Ain't gonna help you. He died. What more can I say? He's dead.
Talking about detective stories, not even Agatha Christie's you enjoyed?
Nope. Nope.
No? Not,
Nope.
no Sherlock Holmes?
Nope. And I've read both Agatha Christie and Sherlock Holmes. Nope.
So I'm not able to generally enjoy Agatha Christie much, but Sherlock Holmes I like because that stream of consciousness and that train of thought that he keeps calling, that I find very interesting. So that's the reason why I like reading Sherlock Holmes.
But both of those authors are, I mean, Conan Doyle and Christie. their writing style is both very direct and simple. Conan Doyle was a little bit more interesting. I've only read the novel, the first Sherlock Holmes novel, and the way he sets it up from the viewpoint of Dr. Watson, and how Dr. Watson sees or first meets this gentleman who's looking to for someone to live with, and Watson just thinks the guy is just unique, strange. So the writing style was interesting, but I I don't like mysteries.
Nothing beyond that. Oh,
Yeah.
have you read that one called The Truth About Harry Kubert Affair?
No, no,
No, no. That's one
no.
mystery I like. Ooh.
Hey,
Okay.
I have one word for you.
Mhm.
Iridium.
And that's what I'm coming to now. So the whole story and everything happening and all of that, and when the film ends, there's this one note which says that the poison is authentic, and it exists and all of that. So do you think that was necessary to mention, and what was the point of putting that bit in at the end?
Well, I don't think it was necessary. I think it was a cheap trick because the film came out in the 50s. Iridium sounds like polonium, sounds like uranium. It glows. Ayo, I'm getting virus protection messages here. I think the whole this whole talk is a virus. I think the whole, cut that. The whole thing at the end of the film was trying to speak to 1950s paranoia about nuclear war, trying to add that extra thing that it could happen to you. It's there. It's coming. Have you seen what was it? The Pod People, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original. Oh, they're coming. They're coming. So the 1950s was really, really Cold War paranoia. And I think by putting that suggestion that this poison, this toxin is real, was meant to give people a little bit of a fright as they left the movie theater. And they'll go home and tell somebody else about it. More people will go see the movie from word of mouth. Why do I always come to the cheap Hollywood conclusions, right? It's all about money. But I think that was the reason for it, just to get a little bit of a nye, nye, nye at the end to make the audience feel scared that, oh my God, it could happen to me. And then poison Coca-Cola in the movie theater. Don't touch the popcorn. Um, but I looked up, and that was actually a lie. There is no such a poison. And the chemical substance that they're talking about in the film, iridium, is actually important for manufacturing. So I wondered, why would anybody be importing this mineral, this chemical into the United States illegally? And they wouldn't be. Of course, importing it illegally means you don't pay taxes on it, but iridium is a very important compound for creating uh, um, heat resistant metallic products. So something like a pot or a pan, something that has to hold a lot of heat, or the steel making equipment, they need to have iridium. And iridium mostly is mined in Africa, especially South Africa. So it was not true. Iridium is not a toxic poison. Of course, you don't want to drink the stuff or eat the stuff, but it's not a horrible, horrible thing. It's quite a common substance in manufacturing, in industry. So that thing at the end, not true.
A cheap trick. Okay.
Yeah, cheap trick. But again, the IUM ending, uranium, radioactivity. And you remember how many years ago was it? A Soviet scientist was poisoned with, I think, polonium. My chemistry is not good, but he was poisoned with some sort of radioactive substance that is not noticeable. It doesn't put out the same kind of X-rays. And then also there was radiation poisoning just from World War II. Everybody was so afraid of the nuclear bomb. Duck and cover, hide under your desks.
I think that's what they were aiming for. Now that
Yeah.
that's what they're aiming for.
What's your picture for next week?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. So I think we should pick up something a bit lighter, and as you were suggesting, let's watch It Happened One Night.
And forgive the sexism in the film.
I think screwball comedy is what they call that, no? So
Okay, but still,
yeah,
man pushing woman around, man spanking woman. Let's just ignore that when we watch the film.
it's happened in these films as well, no?
These films we saw both DOA and by the way, DOA, Dead on Arrival. We knew that, right?
Yeah, I looked that up. I didn't know. I was like, I need to understand what it is, so I looked that up.
Oh, there is. If you're interested, you could probably find it on YouTube because that's where I found it. There was a pilot episode for a zombie TV show that was never purchased, never accepted. And now I cannot remember the name of it. Babylon Fields. In that episode, people come back from the dead, not as brain-eating zombies. They just crawl their way out of their graves, even from the 1800s. And one man crawls out of the back of a factory parking lot. And he goes, the end of the first of the pilot episode, he goes to his friend, a detective. He says, I want to report a murder. And the detective says, whose murder? He says, mine. So that trope of the man reporting his own murder
Was used there as well.
It's used, yeah. I bet it's used more than we realize.
I'm sure. And that's the kind of vibe it has also, it kind of has a more of a, that's the kind of vibe I got when I heard it for the first time, It sounds like a ghost story to me.
Yeah.
And I was also contemplating that maybe it's a conspiracy against him.
Yeah. So I think the influence of Alfred Hitchcock in our minds is so strong because that's so typical of Hitchcock films, like The Man Who Knew Too Much. No.
I haven't seen.
Interesting film. Hitchcock produced the film in the 1940s, 50s, old black and white with, oh my goodness, don't ask me to remember, but he made it when he was in London, a British film. And then 20 years later, he made it again in Hollywood with Jimmy Stewart and Doris Day. You know, the song, Que Sera, Sera, that came from that movie. So that's an interesting one. Hitchcock remade his own movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Trivia.
I like that. In fact, apart from Psycho, I haven't seen any other Hitchcock film. So it's shameful.
Oh,
I haven't seen.
Come to my house. I have this big box of DVDs, all of his movies.
Okay.
Well, plus his TV shows.
We can have a series of talks about his films also sometime. So are we doing It Happened One Night next? Is that a pick?
Sure.
Okay.
That's one of those surprise films where you don't expect to love it so much, but it's an excellent movie, I think. Again, I showed it to my students years ago, and they thought, how old is the film? 1932? 39.
Yeah.
My students thought, how can you enjoy something from 1939? And they loved it. You know, kids from the 1990s. It was a while ago.
This film has, if I'm not mistaken, I am completely aware about 2 Hindi adaptations of this film. So, and one was made in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken, and the other was made in the 90s. And both are really enjoyable films, but I haven't seen this one, so it will be. I'm looking forward to that.
Welcome to the mothership, right?
Yeah.
Boop, 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 boop.
Yes, yes. All right, Tim. Okay, I think we should wind it up now,
Yes.
and let's watch that film, and let's meet up again next week, and let's have another discussion.
All right. Sounds good. It's great to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, great to see you too, Tim, and thank you so much for this. This is so much fun, and yeah.
Very, very scattershot talk about the movie today, but it's always fun.
I think I've see when I saw D.O.A, no, I had a clear idea of how I wanted to talk about it. When I saw DOA, it didn't come to me like that. So I think it's because of the content of the film, probably.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm gonna blame the film. I'm not gonna blame us.
but maybe we
Did
should
you?
check out what other people have said about the film, and maybe we should see, I kind of try to avoid doing that, because then I feel that, I become influenced, and then I keep repeating what those people do. So I generally look at what others have to say when I've said what I wanted to say already. So
One of my favorite podcasts is called The Lovecraft Easy. And the host of that, Mike Davis, the publisher as well, he always says on his show, don't watch the trailer, don't read the reviews. Just experience the movie for yourself. Otherwise, the trailer is going to give everything away, and the reviews are going to change how you feel or how your possibility of feeling. Yeah, so I like your idea, coming at this with your own background and your own blank slate. Although never a blank slate, we're always influenced by our cultures.
yes, yes.
One last thing about this film. You ever notice how the last two films, anything related to mystery, the actors always have to adopt a New York accent? Yeah.
That was, I think, something characteristic to the genre. I think that's where this whole film noir idea, because as you mentioned, it's a lot about the lighting and the camera angles and the costumes that they wear. So I guess the accent as well.
And New Yorkers just got this idea about being badasses. That's it.
Probably. Have you read the Perry Mason novels?
No, never. I didn't even know they were novels. I just saw the TV show when I was a kid.
Okay, well, they did the TV show again. It's I think HBO did it again, and it's on.
Really?
Yeah. I saw one episode, but I didn't know if I wanted to follow that. So
You could probably watch all the old black and white TV shows from the 60s on YouTube.
on YouTube?
Probably. I don't know. I never had the interest.
I'll check it out.
When I was a kid, it was always Lost in Space, Gilligan's Island, Perry Mason. My grandmother used to enjoy the detective stories. My grandfather enjoyed Westerns, cowboys. Yeah. So
There's so much out there to watch and follow. No? There's simply so much out there.
there is. And we should be reading more books.
We should be reading more books, yes, and we should be also winding this up. So,
Yes. Good night.
all right, have a nice time.
All right, man.
All right.
Good night.
All right. Good night, Tim. Good night.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.